All right, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another Chit Chat and Chill. This evening, our panelists are myself, Matito, Santino, Aaron, and Jeff. I refuse to say pork again. I already said
Nah, pork.
pork. And we have some interesting topics to discuss tonight, so I'm excited. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about unemployment benefits and the eviction moratoriums and how that maybe they go together. Hey, Shayla, another panelist joining. So we're also going to talk about Nick Cannon, just I guess everything Nick Cannon. Maybe we just see where that conversation goes, and we're going to talk about COVID and Obama's birthday party and these mandatory vaccinations that are starting to happen. So, with that, do you guys want to start with the eviction moratorium and that ending? And what does that mean to you guys as far as, I know that we had talked about unemployment benefits and were folks misusing their unemployment benefits and not paying their rent. We saw some stories on that. We also saw some stories of folks, with the eviction moratorium ending who are just going to end up homeless most likely. So, where
So I'd like to start off with that. My struggle from the articles I read is trying to understand. So I get those people who do like Uber and DoorDash, stuff like that, people who that might be their main source of income having issues with unemployment. But for people who were in corporate worlds and they were um, a regular, not 9 to 5, but 9 to 5 steady employment, I don't understand why you wouldn't be able to still pay your bills. Because myself being on unemployment for 8 months, my unemployment was always a little bit extra than what I would have got in my regular salary. Not to mention, stimulus and things of that nature. So I would be interested in somebody's perspective in that is going through eviction. What happened?
I I did read a few articles that from that point of view was trying to understand what exactly people are going through. I think some people who that I read about were self-employed, so maybe they owned a restaurant or something like that. And then also I saw folks who were like living with their and taking care of elderly or like disabled kids, and so I don't. For some reason, they didn't qualify for unemployment, so they weren't getting unemployment benefits. So, and then I know that they were took advantage of then the eviction thing where they couldn't get evicted. As far as like you said, corporate America and folks who could work, I I couldn't tell you why they're not paying their stuff, but I do know there was a lot going on with. To your point, people were getting stimulus checks, right? And people were getting like the child tax credit just kicked in, so hopefully that started to help folks. But also, I know childcare was an issue for people for essential workers. So if there was no childcare in the beginning of the pandemic, people had to stay home or quit their jobs. So I know that put some people behind. Not to the point where they couldn't catch up necessarily, but I know that that was part of what put some people behind.
I mean, it's because of the government benefit. Let's just call it for what it is. It's because there's a law that said that you don't have to pay it. I mean, I just saw an article recently talking about how, what was it, like 1 or 2% of student loan borrowers are repaying back their student loans right now, even though there's like, it's now's the time, right? It's not accumulating any interest. Like you could pay down that balance, but no one's doing it. I mean, hell, I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it either. I'm not gonna lie.
You know what I mean? It's just the nature of the beast. Whenever you have these government like programs,
That's the
I mean, look at like recently, like their response to battling inflation is to do a permanent increase. I think it was a 25% increase in federal food stamp benefits. So I don't know. Don't quote me on the 25%. I just know that it's a new permanent increase in federal welfare, federal food stamps. Now, cool. I get. Like, if people need that, I get that. And with inflation, I understand the logic behind that. But people that are not on like welfare, food stamps, well, your dollar just went. Your dollar is worth like whatever percentage that went up. Like, your dollar is worth that much less because the over time the prices are just going to move up to match that that increase in the benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
You know,
anytime government benefits
and
are increasing, it's something to squint about. Just because are people going to become dependent on them, and you don't know how long. I mean, obviously, a pandemic. We're always saying the pandemic is unprecedented. How do you decide what government programs are needed and what's not, and what's more important to some and not others? I just feel like that's tricky. It's tricky to know how the eviction thing is going to hurt or help people. I don't know, because I get the landlord's
well, I
point
mean,
of view.
it's gonna hurt landlords.
I know that was been hurting landlords. It's
Yeah.
been hurting
And
landlords.
Actually,
I
it's
feel
not.
like people think that landlords are these rich people, but some. I mean, you might own one or two buildings, and you just so happen to, have two spaces that you rent, and you haven't been collecting rent for a year. What do they do? I'm sorry. So Tito and then Jeff.
Yeah, well, I was actually going to make that point. Somehow it turned from having to pay your mortgage to not being evicted, and what to your point, you have owners who, and this isn't just residential, this is commercial, who haven't been collecting their rent money. A lot of people rely on that to pay their own mortgages because they'll use some of that money to pay for itself, and then it allows them to be stable. And
Right.
I don't know, the whole eviction thing, just blanketing it like that never really made sense to me, because there's going to be people who take advantage of things. And I think that was just a way to stop the courts from having to be open. Really, that would be my opinion.
Maybe, yeah. Jeff.
All right, so I'm gonna be, I guess, the bad guy right now because when the pandemic first started, my wife got laid off. We don't miss the mortgage payments. That just doesn't happen. I'll do what I got to do to go out and make the money to make sure that this house is paid for because it's the roof over my head. A lot of people did get unemployment, did have the benefit of not paying their rent for all these months, and they went shopping instead of either putting the money aside or paying their rent because they don't see the other side. They don't see the owner of the building that has to pay for their property. They don't care. So I don't think the landlord should care that they don't have the rent money now. That's just my opinion. But the as far as the landlord side of it, working in the mortgage industry, most of these dudes got the forbearance on their property or the deferral. So they didn't pay. They wasn't paying for their mortgage or for their property anyway. So everybody kind of made out in this whole situation. And if you put yourself in a bad position while you were gaining an income, I can't feel bad for you. The number one that's got to get paid is the place where you live.
Yeah. And I know that like you said, people were able to defer their mortgage at the same time that their renters were not paying them. But I don't know if those were always aligned. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the problem. But again, we don't know. We're speculating. Go ahead, T.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think they were, because people just stopped paying rent because they knew they couldn't get evicted. So they have these bills building up until that other mandate or whatever it was considered, a executive order, kicked in. They still owe that money. Like
a lot of
there's a
landlords
lot
aren't
of
even.
bad decisions made, and unfortunately that's what happens when you give people stuff, whether it's money, whether it's whatever.
You got to remember, they were getting PPP loans too. They were getting PPP. Landlords were getting PPP loans. They were getting a whole lot of money from the government as well to pay these, and they weren't.
Well, I just learned a lot about that PPP loan. A lot of people are going to owe a lot of money,
or go to jail
mid-game. So they changed the rules a few months in.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally know of a situation where there was a lot of money borrowed. It was supposed to be forgiven, and it is not.
Mm-mm.
So that person still owes half.
Mm-hmm.
And you went in thinking, oh, it's forgiven. I can upgrade whatever you want to do, and it's not forgiven. You're going to owe money. So there's a lot of people who are going to go out of business. Yeah, that's going to be really bad because the government does. They just change the rules mid-game.
Yep. And there were also those $10,000 small business loans where people were like, "Oh, I have a small business," and just took the money and was
they owe it back,
eating out crab legs and stuff. You're like, "What are you doing? Like, is this really?" And then you're TikToking it, so you have all the evidence that the IRS needs to show that you got this.
They're coming for everybody as soon as this is all over.
It makes
every gig worker that I know went out and got that money. Every gig worker that I know, with the exception of my wife, every gig worker I know went out and got that money.
Well, here's because
my wife does. My wife works. She does gig work after she gets off of her regular job. So she made, just doing gig work, shopping for people, she made an extra $30,000 last year. Last year during the pandemic, we made more money. We made more money than we normally make because the money was out there. You just had to go get it. And that's why I don't feel bad for a lot of people, because they didn't choose to go get it. They chose to sit at home.
Or they got the stimmies and they spent it on restaurants. And, people were joking about it. It was literally a joke. Like, they were not using that money for what they should.
How many people went and got cars just to park them in front of their house?
Yeah.
Man.
I don't know.
Man.
Well, here's the worst part about that PPP thing. It's due 24 months from whenever you got your payment. So there's people who may have gotten it last March, April. It's coming up very soon, and you're gonna owe 10,000, 9,000, 5,000, 20,000. And if they haven't even looked into it yet, it's gonna hit them like a brick wall. That's gonna end very, very, very badly. As Kevin
they just offered my wife $9,000 and she said no.
Yeah.
They sent her a thing saying, "Hey, we can give you $9,000. You just got to apply for it." My wife was like, "You ain't gonna catch me up like that."
So, Aaron, are we off topic? Was there something specific that you wanted to talk about on the evictions? I know you had said that you're curious on other folks' point of view, but what do you think based on what we've said so far?
So, I'm trying to be cautious as to not generalize, because most of the people around me, I know they were blessed to survive this and keep up with their rent. So I don't personally know anybody struggling towards eviction. But like you said, I see all the articles about it. And like they said, it's money out there. It's been money out there. So, I know childcare was an issue. But for those, I guess we would just need someone who could answer, because with childcare being an issue, for so many people being out of work, was there no one who could help you in that situation and babysit for you and keep your kids so you could keep working? Stuff like that.
It looks like 14% of renters, 11 million people. Oh, and about 16% of U.S. households are behind on their rent, which has doubled since before the pandemic. A lot of it is in the southeast of the country. Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina, and a lot of folks of color. It's affecting folks of color the most. So with these moratoriums ending, a lot of people are just going to start evicting. This article that I'm reading on CBS News was talking about how a lot of landlords don't even want their money back. They just want people out so that they can start leasing. They're not going to fight in court to get money that you might not have. They just want them out so that they can lease.
Well, they know exactly what the people that they're renting to have.
Right.
And they got their application, so they know they're not getting their money back if they're not getting their money. Those are probably the ones who are like, I don't care, I just want them gone.
Right. Jeff?
So here in the States, with just two things with the child care, I'm going to say we were kind of blessed that our children's school, even though they were working from home, they paid someone to cut, like anybody that we chose. So we had a friend that was working from home. So she got paid from her regular job to sit at my house to do her work from my house while she was getting paid from my kids' school to sit here with my kids for their school. I know there's not, I don't know of any other schools in the area that did that, but that was a blessing to us. As far as like in California with landlords wanting people out, they're doing some crazy stuff now. So not knowing that the moratorium is done, now they're sending people, okay, your lease is up, so now your rent's up $600 more per month. So even the people who are current, they're making them have to move because there's so little inventory for people to live in here. People are literally paying motels to stay in motels on a monthly basis because we don't have a place for them to rent an apartment out here. So the landlords have been waiting for this moratorium to go, so all these people can live, they have lines of people, ready to move in. And the other thing they're doing is, if your credit's not right, like if your credit is below 650, you can forget about renting a place out here.
Wow. And you're in California. That's what you're talking
Yeah.
about. That's crazy. That sounds super stressful.
But also in California, you can squat for 2 days and then you already have rights of a regular tenant.
Yep.
So you can drag out a lease an extra 6-7 months just through that.
Yep.
I learned that by working there. You have to give them a warning. You have to offer them counseling. You have to offer them other options as far as moving, and then you can start the eviction process. It's absurd in California.
Jeez. California has too many of those weird things like that.
And they could do that in your backyard, and you can't kick them out.
Can't kick them
out. I mean, aren't they coming after bacon next? Isn't that a thing?
Bacon.
Oh yeah, they're trying to outlaw bacon out here.
Why?
If a food company
Matito,
doesn't
I'm coming.
meet,
I'm moving.
If a food company does,
room for you.
Like if they don't,
I'm done.
If like a livestock company doesn't like meet certain thresholds for I don't know, like humane treatment, I guess. I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is, but they don't meet those things. They can't sell their meat into California, and apparently they're like less than 1% of like pig farms will be able to meet these standards.
So do I even want bacon after
$16 a pound right now?
I mean, we all eat pork all the time, just fine.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but still.
Just real quick, I went and I looked, and that food stamp thing I was talking about, it will jump 27% above pre-pandemic levels on average starting in October. So 27%. Wow. And that's according to CNN. I haven't used the enemy's news outlet.
The enemies. Okay, well, anything else on that topic? Hopefully, folks are.
I love pork, man. I mean,
clearly your
porker will not stand for this.
I love pork. I'm like Bubba from Forrest Gump, but with pork.
Oh goodness! All right. So then, next up, Nick Cannon. So
everybody, baby daddy.
I know that his name brings up lots of things in our heads, but recently he's in the news for his polyamorous, hopefully I'm saying that right, polyamorous lifestyle where he has let me look it up. I think he has 6 kids or 7 kids with 5 women. I'm just guessing now. He has 6 or 7 kids with, let's say, 5 women. He has 4 kids this year. That were born. The women all know about each other. This is not something that he's hiding or ashamed about. And we could just probably start there. I know we have some very specific questions around how are these kids going to even grow up, and is this worth this lifestyle? But maybe we just start with what do you guys think of a polyamorous lifestyle?
Yes, let me start. It's not polyamorous. He's being Johnny Appleseed.
Mhm.
Like his intention is like he said it, like he had a conversation with these women, they have an understanding, so he's not dating them, like he's sleeping with them,
Mhm.
and they agree on this baby situation. My issue with that is, yes, he can financially support these children, but there's an emotional aspect and being present that, yeah, I think he actually has like 8 children.
Okay.
um and how are you going to be present unless you literally all live in the same house and they all go to the same school? What about recitals and sports and graduations? You can't be at all of them.
Mhm.
And then you have to work because you need to get the money to continue to support them. So where's the time you spend? How do you choose? And that's the thing, just because you can does it always mean you have to? Should you?
Mhm.
um
Right.
and see, to Shayla's point, it says after his diagnosis he decided to have as many kids as he could. Once again, is that fair? If you only think I got a solid 10 years left, you procreating as much as you can, what are you emotionally doing to those kids that don't get you for a whole lifetime? There are some people who can't, like, but it's one thing to know, I got a good 30 years, but 10, assuming it's something that dramatic. What about the rest of their life? They won't know you. They won't be able to make those memories with you.
Yeah. And the
And
women are okay with it too. So I felt like this is not a one-sided thing. The women are
Yeah.
agreeing to it. And so go ahead, Tito.
but them agreeing to it doesn't make it any less selfish, because to
Mm-hmm.
her point, you have these kids growing up without a father. If he is gone in 2 years, or even if he is there, the availability, especially for Black males, in a time where we're over 75% single parent homes, you're adding to the problem. You're not helping. I don't care how wealthy those kids are. Wealth does not determine people's behaviors. We see that over and over with millionaires who are drug addicts and just self-destructive, living chaotic lives. It's a big contributing factor, but when you're in a situation where you have no direction, you have no father, that's what he's doing is poison. I don't care who agrees with him. They're just as selfish as him. Just because he can fund it, they think it's a good idea because now they're taken care of for life.
Right.
But those kids have to grow up and live and become men or women, um, that can't be replaced. And he's an idiot
But are they taken care of? Like I know,
financially, but no, in no other way.
but if I didn't even know about his diagnosis. I just Googled that and realized he had lupus. But like, so if his income stops, and I'm sure he's accumulated a good
No,
amount of
he's got a
money, at
lot of
some
money.
point,
Yeah.
I mean, with 8 kids across all these families, I mean, either way, you're going to have money issues now. You're not even here to like figure it out. Hopefully, he puts something in writing so that each kid knows what they get. And that could be a disaster too, but that's a whole different chit chat. But yeah, I feel like, yeah, I agree with you guys. I don't have anything different to say. I'm not all for this. Well, okay, maybe it's not polyamorous because he's not actually dating them, but I was just watching a freaking Say Yes to the Dress, and it was like 2 chicks and a dude getting married. I was like, this is on Say Yes to the Dress now? Like maybe because they're getting 2 dresses and they were just
What,
having
it was like
to spend
two
20
two
grand, but
two 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 women marrying the same dude.
they were all marrying each other, Santino.
All
Is
that, I don't
is
care
that
about any of
legal?
that.
All
All
marrying
that's
each other.
fine until you start bringing kids into it who have to grow up in an atmosphere that's for them. They have to explain or they have to cope with, and
I
I
I
just
felt
think
like
it's bad. It's
when I
all
was
bad.
watching the episode, I felt like they were going to run into issues if they met if one of them met another person they wanted to bring into the relationship, because they made it seem like he met a girl and then they met her together and then they all fell in love with each other. What
They're
if it keeps
adults,
happening where he keeps meeting girls and now like it's not always going to work out and gel
but
out?
they're
Like,
all adults. They can screw up their own lives. When you bring
yeah.
kids into it, that's where I have a real problem.
Well, I'm
Screw
sure
your
they're
own
going to
life
plan
up. Nobody
ahead.
cares. I could care less. But as soon as you
Yeah.
have a kid, you've got to come up, and either they don't have a parent or they have all these other parents. That's not That's not balanced
I'm sure
for
they're gonna
them.
have kids. I'm sure they're gonna have
So
kids. They didn't say they
it's
weren't.
just
But
like
yeah.
that reminds me of Sister Wives. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. It was an older reality show where the guy had 4 or 5 wives. Like he was legally married to one woman, but then he had four or five other wives. I think it was on
Network.
TLC too.
Okay.
Um, but on the show, it started out really great. They ran into some legal issues. 'Cause I think they started off in like Utah, but
Mm-hmm.
then that wasn't legal, obviously. So they kind of got ran out of their home. But saying all that to say, years later, like yeah, now some of these women are like, I think I made a mistake, and they had one of the wives got caught. She was in a catfishing situation. Uh, where the person that she thought she was online dating wasn't it. Um, and it was another relationship where like they're not intimate anymore, and he lives. They all at first, I think they all either lived in one house together on the same property, and now they kind of like in the same vicinity. So yeah, they like his time is not available. So he can't be there as much, and he's in this house this month. I think he was house hopping from like month to month.
With kids in each house, like
Yeah,
oh my gosh. So again, he was even trying to live with all his damn kids and couldn't even figure it out. And Nick Cannon's not even trying to live with the kids. They're just
yeah.
spread and see wherever the hell he goes.
And for those women, the women aspect to the Nick Cannon thing, it's like you can you hear other stereotypes of these athletes and rappers having these baby mamas on the side. Well, now they're in these relationships where we agreed upon this. I agreed to allow you to make me a single mother. There was no surprise. Nobody got trapped. And yeah, some of these people like, oh, me having a baby by you is a cute thing, which, but
And
yeah,
yeah, we're not
Wait,
we're not
wait,
fighting that
wait
lifestyle.
right,
till wait till
right.
that guy leaves in the state. Let's. I
Mhm.
want to see that reality show.
It's gonna be a hot
Right. Exactly.
writing.
Exactly.
I just looked
Yeah.
up his net worth supposedly is 30 million. Depending on how many kids he has, that's not a lot of money.
It's not.
It
It's
really
not
isn't.
enough. It's not enough for them all to make it
Not
through
for
their
all
whole
these different
lives.
moms to support their kids.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna have to work. So whatever. That
Well,
Shayla, he makes all the maternity shoots hilarious.
to be fair, two of his oldest two are with Mariah Carey, so he really don't have to count them because
oh, true.
they mama
Yeah,
got
they're
them.
good.
But
Yeah,
still,
they good. They good.
Facts.
but see, that's a whole nother issue. Just because the mom can afford to take care of them, it
Because
shouldn't
the
mean that
daddy
you
not.
procreate. Jeez, hot mess. What was I about to say? Oh, that we're not fighting for our families anymore. Like you said, now we have it.
Yes.
Now we have it to the point where single women are agreeing not to be married, to have your child, and that's it. We're not even aspiring to marriage or anything stable for these kids in our community. And I feel like that's really sad. Ugh.
That is a whole nother other conversation on a breakdown of family.
We can
And
talk about it because that's what this is. It's the result of all of that. Jeff, go ahead. Sorry, I saw you.
Before y'all had that serious conversation, I ain't mad at Nick Cannon for trying to figure out what he's good at. So he can't act, he's not funny, he can't rap, he can't sing, but he can create a lot of babies. So he found something he was good at. I'm just saying, he found something he was good at. Give him his props for finding something he was good at. He didn't quit.
People apparently like that Wild and Out show. It's apparently very popular.
Nick Cannon's hilarious.
His thing is every time he takes a class and goes to school, he learns something. What happened? What happened?
Sorry, I don't know.
Oh. Well, every time he goes to school, he learns something, and he's so eager to share because he's not smart. Like the anti-Semitic things that got him fired from his
America's Got Talent.
He learned something and thought he was educating somebody else who was stupid, and they're sitting there doing this, and they got him fired. Now he learned, hey, I might be able to get away with banging as many chicks as possible and with no repercussions as long as I get them to agree. But you're ruining lives with your stupidity. I can't get past the kids aspect of all this. It's terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's reversed on the message. We just were trying to get people to understand the importance of STDs and wrapping it
Mhm.
up. And now it's like, well, he out here just raw dogging everybody. It can't be that bad.
Yep.
He's
Yeah,
shooting up everybody's club.
It's not okay. Not okay. Okay. Anything else about Nick Cannon? Or, I mean, like you said, that's another chit chat, the topic of the breakdown of the family. We could definitely come back to that one. That's a forever topic. And we've probably
Yeah.
touched on it a few times.
Yeah, did I mention he was a terrible rapper?
Hey, he does have a hot track record. He's dated, I don't get it, but he's dated some tens.
It's because of Drumline.
What was that? That was horrible. That was a terrible movie. Like,
Devin Miles is
understand.
getting him everything.
Yeah, gosh, I'll tell you, like you didn't go. I saw that movie in the theater, guys. I have to admit that I was at that age, guys. I was at that.
Who was
age.
in that movie with him? I don't even remember the chick.
Zoe, was it Zoe?
Saldana.
Zildano, yeah.
It was her.
No, was
Yeah.
it?
I don't
She
remember.
was his girlfriend in the movie.
I don't
Man, you know what? I
that
think
at
you're
all.
totally right, dude.
Yeah.
Was it her? You're
Yeah.
confirming it? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
it totally was Zoe Saldana. That's hilarious.
I don't remember. I'm just sitting here like his movies are horrible. I can't like thinking about that movie makes me want to punch somebody because
Dude,
I just
mean,
see
Pablo was in that
stupid
movie.
face.
Him and Christina Milian stunk up Can't Buy Me Love, you know.
I
So,
forgot about Christina
yeah.
Milian. Oh God. Well, he married so I'm always gonna hate Nick Cannon because he married my favorite singer and ruined my life. So I love Mariah Carey and I just couldn't understand it. Broke my heart into pieces. I eventually got over it. Thank goodness they got a divorce. Not for the kids. I love the kids, but it just hurt me so deeply. Couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Here's the therapy.
Look, Mariah Carey fans thought they were having another Whitney Bobby situation.
It wasn't no.
Y'all was like, he gonna ruin her life.
Bobby at least had street cred and something about him that I was like, okay, maybe. And it was just like that.
You're crackhead.
No, I'm not saying before the crack.
Man, that's true, Shayla.
Appeal.
He
had
was
an
a come up
appeal.
from the first husband.
Yeah. Bobby at least had some hit records, right?
He had hit records and appeal. Nick Cannon was just like drumline. That was it.
How did it ruin your life? I don't understand that. LaShawn just asked that.
Because Mariah Carey sucks now.
No, that's not because she was my people. Like that was my music growing up. So it just broke my heart to pieces to be like, why do you like this lame? Like I couldn't get past it mentally. It was like, do I not know who you are? Like it just broke my insides. I can't explain it.
Y'all don't disqualify the nerds. Nerds are in just like light skin sometimes. Like nerds are safe. Sometimes you gotta go with what's safe.
Oh, here we go disrespecting the light skinned
like,
people.
Don't hate them.
No,
I mean, I can vouch for the nerds thing though. I'm a pretty big nerd.
Oh God.
Yeah. My son, I told my son when he get to high school, he gonna have all the girls because he is nerdy as they come.
I'm just
Why is he wearing those turbans?
Probably something he learned in one of his classes.
Yeah, in one of his Howard classes.
It's a sign of respect.
This guy's the worst.
Came out on TV looking like Haji from Johnny Quest.
I mean, he wears the hell out of them. He wears the hell out of them. I'm sure it's a nappy mess under there, but whatever. Okay, anyway. Side. So, Nick Cannon, anything else to wrap it up before we move on to COVID and the effects on our...
He ain't wrapping
that was too easy. I'm sorry. That was too easy. I'm sorry.
That's how you end it. Nick Cannon,
that was low hanging fruit.
What's the next? All right.
That was so
I'm
bad.
sorry. I'm struggling. And then
It's
on
funny.
two people who won't mask it up, who
Oh.
refuse to mask it up. We have Obama's birthday party where he hosted. Well, I think he was originally planning to have 700 people.
It was like
700,
500
yeah.
people with like 200 like servers and like support
Originally,
staff
they scaled it back apparently, and a bunch of people were uninvited. And
to like 275.
yeah, it was still a huge party with lots of servers, like you said. And then I think the last time I checked, there was like 70 people on the island who ended up testing positive for COVID after the party, which was the highest that had ever been on the island since like the beginning of the pandemic. So obviously his party had an impact on Martha's Vineyard or wherever they were. Also, it was just such a slap in the face at this point in time while the country's going through everything that we're going through. It's just like, really? How can you be this out of touch? And usually it's like a bunch of celebrities, but the fact that it was the former sitting president, it's just so frustrating.
You know, most politicians are do as I say, not as I do type of person. You know, they think that their privilege allows them to do certain things that they tell us not to do. So yeah, whatever. They got, you know, they got what they deserve. Whoever got COVID, that's on you.
But they brought it to that island too. So that's frustrating. Like they spread it. They were spreading it, and also it was like I said, it was it was online, it was in your face.
You want to talk about a super spreader event, right?
Right.
I mean,
that's what I was going to say.
And of course, they're not going to say that. You know, I mean, they didn't even say Lollapalooza with like 400,000 people, and I forgot how many people they say have linked. There's a number. I forgot what it was. But how many people have COVID cases linked to Lollapalooza, but they're saying that it wasn't a super spreader event, you know? But then, like, and you know, conveniently, I was actually in South Dakota last weekend, right in the, you know, the start of Sturgis out there. So all the motorcycle coming in and stuff. And I remember how much they were trying to demonize those people last year. And even going into this, I think there was a couple things out there at the start of the Sturgis rally, and everyone's like hating because, you know, chances are they're mostly Trump supporters, you know, but that's a problem, you know, like, you know, and I have to say, you know, having spent like the last, like, you know, the week before out in like 8 different states in like 7 days, you know, I mean, this is like outside of us living in these like big metropolitan areas that we do, like people are very much spaced out. Like just in general, like, you know, regular folks, like the majority of the people in this country are like nice and spaced out. They're not living on top of each other like we are. It was like some Twilight Zone stuff, but in the opposite way, right? 7 days I went 8 states, and the only time I ever felt like COVID was a thing was when I got back home to Chicago. Even when I went to, like, we took a pit stop in Minneapolis, you know, and we stopped off at the Mall of America because the wife had never been there. So we just did a quick stop there, and I'm thinking like, oh, deep blue Minnesota, right? Everyone's gonna be all masked up, you know, masked up more than Chicago. Wrong. Like nobody had their mask on when I was out there in Minnesota and in Minneapolis. It wasn't even like I was in the outskirts.
What are their numbers, or you don't know? Like just
I don't know. It was just really interesting, you know, because I went to all these places. I've been to Denver. I was in Steamboat Springs. I went to, you know, I was in a bunch of places. And like even like liberal as Denver, you know, it wasn't like this, like everybody's walking around with masks on and being all scared to be around each other. It just wasn't that. It wasn't until I got back home.
So are there hospitals crowded? Like I know in Chicago, they keep saying our hospitals are starting to get crowded. And so it's a reason.
It straight up did not feel like COVID was a thing, dude. I cannot emphasize this enough.
Well,
it was like I had a vacation from COVID for a week. It was amazing.
Well, I'm jealous because, like you said, in Chicago, things are starting to shut back down because hospitals are starting to fill back up. People aren't wearing masks. You got this variant out here. No one's scared.
I be in the grocery stores in Chicago, you know, like, or any store, and everyone's with their mask, and I be walking in without my mask. Like,
I've done that a few times, although I told Dave I wouldn't, so I'm gonna stop. But like, it's just like so much easier when you got your stupid phone and you don't have the stupid mask on and you can unlock it and not have to, like, I'm just so like used to not having it on now. I'm just irritated to have to go back. Like
I'm not wearing
mentally,
it.
I'm
It's
like
just not happening.
struggling. But then you got these stupid parties like Obama's party or freaking Lollapalooza happening, and our politicians are telling us, "Oh yeah, you stay in the house. We'll do what we want to do."
Well, it was
Go
like
ahead,
that big. It was like all them parties in the street when Trump allegedly lost the election. It was all them parties in the street in
Just won't
Chicago,
let
and
it
then
go.
you had Peter Griffin, our governor Peter Griffin, out there dancing in the street along with them. Lori Lightfoot and stuff say, "Oh well, sometimes people just have to party."
Peter
Like
Griffin. I just heard what you said. I'm like, his name is Peter Griffin.
I caught that. I caught that.
Okay, sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
It's Obama's COVID spreader jammy jam happened, and it's living here in California. What's great is we would be the first state to close up with all the numbers spiking the way they are, but because the governor he's going through his recall right now where we have to vote next month, he's not shutting down nothing. He's like, no, but put your mask on, but no. We're not shutting down anything because if he shuts this state down again, he has no chance.
They're already trying to send out those mail-in ballots.
Oh yeah, I got
mine. The steal is in, man. They got like 50 fucking 50 candidates on that thing.
So, hand me that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this, and this might be me getting off topic a little bit, but with regards to President Obama, he's over there having this big old party and everything, all that the same weekend that we had an extremely violent weekend in Chicago. Extremely violent weekend that same weekend. We had a 10-hour period where something like 45 or 50 people were shot, including 2 Chicago police officers. Wow. One thing that I guess, and I'm going to be honest, it's unfair to him, what I'm about to say. It's unfair to him, but like if that man came back to Chicago and decided to MLK it, like he can get some stuff done. People will listen to that man. He can come in here and, if he said, if he made a comment and, challenged the people of our city to like do something, like I guarantee you that night, moms and grandmas would be on the street getting their kids off the street.
Right.
Grabbing them by their ear, grabbing them by their hair, getting them off the street. President Obama said to get off the fucking street. I'm dead serious, and it's just really disappointing. It's really disappointing that he chooses to be like an elitist instead. That's what he's choosing to do with his post-presidency. Like Chicago is in crisis. Like we really are. And he has the power. He absolutely has the power to change that. People will rally behind that man in this city. I mean, that guy is a god in this city. Mm. And he chooses to do nothing. He insists to go have a super spreader event in Martha's Vineyard relative to the population, of course. It's really disappointing. And it's a little off topic, but you don't get a break from being president. That's why you're president that's why you get that salary for life. Like you're always doing something with it, Shayla. And then he's using it's been 4 years. It's been 4 years and his guy's in office. This should be great for him.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tito.
Well, in his defense, he is working very hard. He's still running the country. He's just doing it by proxy.
He's doing a terrible job, man, running the country.
When you have an event like that, like kind of what everyone's saying, right before they're talking about locking up and this fake Delta variant and all this other stuff, you have 700 people. They're not wearing masks. They say they had to be supposedly vaccinated before they got in, but all those people still got sick. They could not really say much because it would also show that the vaccines aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Because if they were, they should have no issues because it was mostly an outside event. So it would conflict with the narrative that they're trying to use to lock down again, if they said anything. So you have all these elitists flying in on private jets, so now you have a global warming issue. Everything that they say they went against in 2 days, and they couldn't say anything about it because it would point out all of their main talking points are like
Yeah.
How
I
can
didn't
you
even
how
think
can you
about
say
that.
anything about it? The only people who are going to say about it is Fox trying to get their conservative viewers back, but nobody else cares. They're not going to say anything about it. I mean, he's on video dancing, no mask. Erica Badu, everybody's just partying it up while they're saying, make sure you get vaccinated. While people are getting sick, while they're still saying we need to lock back up, masks are safe, and all this other nonsense.
Hey,
I've yet to hear how they're testing for the Delta variant. I still
haven't.
haven't seen it. They're doing it after the fact.
What are you gonna say?
When
Tina?
I went and got this, they didn't test me for Delta. They tested me for COVID last week. They didn't test me for Delta.
But
They didn't say,
also,
"Oh, which one would you like to be tested for?" No, they just test me the same test I got last time.
but
Go ahead,
to
Aaron.
that point, their event was outside. So if you were outside, you don't have to wear a mask.
Not when you're a biker.
So when you're, I don't know.
When you're a biker, they
about being
complain
a
about the masks.
He's talking about that what was it? What the Sturgis?
Sturgis and stuff. Yeah,
Super spreaders.
and that's
Trump-
mostly outside.
Trump supporter
It's all outside.
ride
Yeah,
thing.
that's mostly outside. You know,
But
It's
it's still a
hypocrisy.
lot of
and,
people.
and Sturgis is old as hell. I mean, it's like what, since 1938, I think they've been doing it. You know, so this is like a staple of American culture.
It wasn't like they were social distancing either. Like you said,
No,
in their
they're
video,
dancing.
they were dancing and very close together. And yes, they were outside, but it was just.
Yeah,
It was
what
a
I want to
flashy
know
space.
is in an event secured by the Secret Service, how the hell they get weed into that event? I'm dead serious. I'm not even joking. That's not even a joke, because Secret Service is like hardcore about that stuff. They got dogs.
Is it legal?
Everything
Wherever they were?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's a federal. When Secret Service is involved, now it's a federal event.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
And it's not federally.
So how the hell? And they were talking about that there was people there smoking weed and everything, and it's fine. I don't care about that. But like, that's a federal event. Like, Secret Service should have been literally locking people up.
Yeah,
because that's their purview to do that. Like, if that was anybody else, Secret Service be locking them up.
I don't know about that. I don't know what they do. The government is the government at the end of the day to me. So,
but that's not okay.
I didn't say it's okay. But why don't people care about this party? That's not okay either. This is just a hot mess. This whole situation. That's how I feel.
But it's just it's get back. That's why people care about the party, because we spent 4 years criticizing everything Trump did, from what he ate to who he was around. So now it's like, haha, your turn. Because if the situation was reversed, everybody talked about Trump not having a mask.
But it would be on messaging though.
During a debate.
It would be like Trump having a party with a bunch of people with masks on.
And then got the COVID shot too.
That's the
so that's a different argument. But that's why we care. That's why people care. Anything that's a tit for tat thing, we're gonna go for.
I was saying, why don't people care? It seems like no one really, like, people, the only comments I saw about it from like other people were like, oh, that looks fun. Or there were some articles where people went in on them because they were like, this is elitist and ridiculous. But on social media, for the most part, people were like resharing the videos. Like, look at Obama dancing at his 60th birthday. There was no hate going on that I saw.
So, do you remember? Did anybody see that episode of the Boondocks years ago? When Obama was running for president. So you have to Google it. It was really old. It was when Obama was running. So if anybody ever seen the Boondocks, it's like Huey was probably like 11. So this was his life in his view. So the episode was satire, because it was like you couldn't say nothing bad about Obama. Somebody asked him how he felt, and he's like, eh. And they're like, eh. Negro, what you mean? And
you're breaking up a little bit.
And he's like, eh. And then like a big fight. Oh crap. Is that better, or I'm still breaking up?
I can hear you, but there's like a delay in your talking.
I think we might have lost her.
But to her
How's
point,
that?
you can't say anything
You
bad
guys,
about it to this
oh,
day.
You can't say anything bad about Obama, you said?
To this day.
No.
I
If
mean,
you
you
do, you're
can,
either
but
racist.
it
Oh
seems
yeah.
to fall on deaf ears. And so why? Why the double
Because you're
standard?
because you're a hater and a racist if you speak bad about the first black president. I mean, you should be able to have an opinion on, anybody who is a public official or a leader of this country, no matter who you voted for, no matter which way you vote. If they do good, you should have an opinion on that. And if they do bad, you should be able to have an opinion on it. You live here. If you don't want them to have an opinion on it, then don't have these positions, or put people in the position that actually do something for the country.
Don't live in America, because that's the whole
Yeah,
point of
yeah,
living here, is
that
to
too.
have
Get out.
a point of view.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tito.
I think a reason why you didn't see much criticism is shadow banning is real. I don't care what
Shadow
anybody
banning?
says. Yes. So I think you weren't exposed to these things, so you wouldn't be outraged. When stuff like this happens, I saw it all up and down my timeline. So it also depends on who you follow and how often you're on social media. But they block stories. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not a theory. I know for a fact they block stories. I've had posts taken down because they said it was misinformation, even if it wasn't even within the realm of context to what they claim was misinformation. So you may not have been seeing it. It was out there, but you had it filtered for you. And that should be infuriating in and of itself, because I can tell you right now, I saw it all up and down my timelines. Yeah. So if you didn't see it, something's wrong. And we already know that social media does it. Even Google does it. You probably can't even Google a lot of this stuff.
Right. It's totally censored. Yeah, that's true. And it's just frustrating, because we've talked about how everybody was so, it was like hyper aware during the Trump presidency, to the point where you were so exhausted by the media that as soon as, the other side starts to do things that are questionable, you don't even have the brain power to think about it. So that's the state we're at right now. People need
They don't have the backbone. They don't have the backbone and the bravery to own up to who they voted for. I stand by that. They're cowards. They're cowards.
That's not a bad.
I mean, people who voted for Biden and are silent about what's going on right now. Jesus. Like, if you voted for Biden, I'm sorry, but like you should take some ownership of that. You should take some responsibility for your vote there, because all of a sudden no one has anything to say, including our government, and it's embarrassing. They want to talk about Trump being embarrassing. This is embarrassing.
Well,
at least Trump was there in their face.
What Kamala said about Afghanistan is embarrassing. Like, I heard that she said something about they're not going to blame this on me.
Yeah, that's the rumors in the White House, is that because they were instead of Biden addressing the nation, they were trying to convince her to come out and address some of this stuff, and she was like, "Hell no, you're not going to pin this shit on me." And I believe that. And I've been saying that, how anytime they need to criticize this administration, they don't criticize Biden.
Nope.
But they're very anxious to criticize the office of the vice president for some reason. I've never seen this before.
Yep.
Unreal.
You have people jumping off of airplanes or falling off of airplanes.
Did you see that video shot there?
The airplane.
No, I can't watch that, but I believe you.
So the plane's taking off, they're holding on,
trying to get away. And if this were Trump's administration, oh my gosh, he's a murderer.
Scandal.
I can't believe he's running people over. 3 or 4 people died falling off of that airplane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, from like 200 feet in the air, dude. It was crazy.
While it's going.
It was
I read about what was happening. I just couldn't watch it.
Insane.
That is.
All of our intelligence agencies got this completely wrong. I mean, they were saying it would take them 60 to 90 days before they even had the capabilities to get into Kabul.
Right.
And it was like
hours.
Yeah, it was, it was so ridiculous. They got this so wrong, and we're supposed to trust these intelligence agencies?
Jeff, you were going to say something?
Yeah, so I had my thoughts on this whole thing before I talked to my brother, who spent 2 tours in Afghanistan as a chemical engineer for the United States Army. And the way he puts stuff, because I called him today and I was venting about how stuff is going down. He's like, yeah, he said, it's not a good look the way everything is happening. He said, but us pulling our troops out, he's like, that has to happen. And he said the reason why it has to happen is because we were there to train them and they didn't show up to training. He's like, I had training session after training session after training session, and they didn't care to come. He's like, we should have been gone years ago, not now, because it's their fault that they didn't, that we gave them the resource to train their army, and the government said, no, we're good. And it wasn't like they didn't have the money to build the army and get the army trained. We were there to do it, and they decided not to train. He's like, as far as us pulling the troops out, he's like, we gotta go because they didn't care.
And I don't think anyone would. I don't think anyone would argue that we needed to get out of there. I mean, even like, you know, during Trump's time, we were all in on that. Like, hell yeah, well, what are we still doing there? But there's a way. There's a better way to do it. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a better way to do that.
There was a
you know what I mean? Like,
better intelligence, maybe.
I mean, it's something, yo. But all I know is like, man, like, it's going right back to Kite Runner days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you guys ever read that book.
He said that he told me that he wouldn't be surprised if the military stood down and let it happen because they didn't show that they cared to train.
Some of the
he said he wouldn't be surprised if they were told.
That's what they were saying. Some of the reports that's what they were saying. They were and the Taliban used WhatsApp to like coordinate all this, and like they've essentially said they've used WhatsApp to set up essentially like hear me out. I was reading an article that the Taliban went and is using WhatsApp to set up like a 911 type of services like already like overnight. Like these people have already like they done had this planned out completely. Not only is it because it's not a matter of just taking power, but they're taking power and then like consolidating it, instilling themselves, and you know they're going right back to being like, oh, we're here to support the people type of crap again. You know,
we paid for everything there.
Yep.
So,
and they took all of those weapons. $6 billion.
Part of the drawdown should have been taking all that stuff early on. It should be a gradual process.
Well, that was all the weapons that the Afghan army was supposed to use to defend against them, and they just laid it all down and they literally just surrendered whole units and governors to the Taliban.
And the president left. Whatever. That was
and then so
it's a disaster. That's
so. Biden disappears to Camp David for 5 days. Kamala Harris doesn't want to talk about anything but Haiti and COVID masks. And then the press secretary, because Fox reached out to her via email, gets an auto reply that she's out of office for the next 5 days. How convenient.
Yeah.
Then he does a press conference, reads it, and doesn't take any questions and walks off. Like,
this is embarrassing.
Our government's got to do better. This is complete embarrassment of our country.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know we got off topic with Obama's birthday, and then we're talking about the government and presidents and embarrassments. So the last thing that we had on our topic to talk about, which we don't have to, I know we've been talking for a while now, was the mandatory vaccinations. It kind of goes with the Obama party and COVID. And, how do you guys feel about the mandatory vaccinations that are starting to roll out from different companies? And also the FDA is is expected to approve the vaccine soon. So once that happens, a lot more companies are expected to mandate the vaccine just like any other vaccine. So what are you guys' feelings on that?
Well, the FDA is getting pressure from the government to approve the vaccine. It's not like they're like, okay, it's good, we're going to do it. They're getting pressure from the powers that be to approve the vaccine so people may feel more comfortable. As far as telling somebody that they have to get a vaccine, either to keep their job or whatever, I think it's just dumb. I thought we lived in a country where we got to decide, for ourselves what we were going to do. The flu vaccine wasn't mandatory, and more people still have died from the flu than they have from COVID. But you shouldn't, I don't think it's right. Churches are now telling people you can't come to church unless you show us proof of vaccinations. That's ridiculous. Jobs, hospitals, and in some ways I understand healthcare in a way, because you're around sick people all day. But still, I feel in that there's, just telling people you have to work here, you have to be vaccinated. I got a problem with that.
Tito.
And those healthcare workers is a very interesting one because they worked through the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
They survived.
Mm-hmm.
They're fine. If they don't want to get vaccinated, why now do they have to get vaccinated? They
Right.
literally just went a year and a half of working with sick people nonstop. And all of a sudden they're losing their job because they won't get this vaccine. And if I thought the government was out of touch, but if they really think the FDA is going to convince more Black people to take a shot, they're insane. Like that's worse than being
No, they can use
naive.
they can use that TikTok video they're trying to persuade.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, that was such a disaster. Talk about a disaster.
How many Black people even know who that was?
Right.
It's all.
Well, we had the Vax that ass up video. That was
Right.
for us.
That was so. Who was the other one
for young
for?
people? Probably
The
for young
TikTok guy.
people. I don't know. We're talking about the White House intern TikTok video. If you guys haven't seen it, Google it.
That thing's embarrassing. I don't know what's more embarrassing, that video or Afghanistan.
Oh my God.
Wow.
It's pretty high up there.
But well, for the mandatory vaccinations, if it's FDA approved, and I'm hoping that the FDA is not rushing to approve this vaccine. I mean, I know when the vaccine was approved for emergency use, they had said that there was nothing in the vaccine that wasn't in other vaccines. So, like, why not get it? And if it's, now been a year of being used and they have more data on it and the FDA is able to approve it, to me, I'm okay with that. To your point, though, Jeff, the flu vaccine wasn't mandatory. And I still don't know how I feel about COVID as far as like, is it like a flu? Is it like something else that we're typically getting vaccinated for? I can't decide because I've heard really bad stories of people with COVID and I've heard people who've had it and didn't even know that they had it. So it's just such a big range of, symptoms that you can get if you're exposed. I just don't know how I feel about it. But I also understand people's point of view where they say, if I'm vaccinated, you're not, why do you care if I'm not? Because you should be protected from it. So what's the problem? And I feel like we just don't have enough data yet to prove that people are vaccinated, aren't spreading it, aren't spreading the variant. And so it's just making people hesitant. Go ahead, Tito.
It's almost, but that people have apprehension to any vaccines. Like people blame the vaccines that you had to get for your children on autism and things of that nature. And, so people, and not just Black people, are apprehensive of somebody sticking a needle of a substance in their body. I mean, I've had COVID. My son had COVID. Between the two of us, we had a really bad case, but separately we were okay. He had the cough and the shortness of breath, and I had everything else. So we made it through. Yes, I'm vaccinated only because my wife is a cancer survivor. And my son is vaccinated because my wife is a cancer survivor. So, just for her reasons, we were like, you know what, we'll go out and do it. But everybody doesn't look at things the way I look at things. And I can't expect people to look at things the way I look at things. And I don't have to understand why they don't want to get vaccinated, but it's their choice. It's their choice to do it or not to do it. And I'm not gonna be the person to tell somebody that you know what, your choice is being taken away from you for my good and everybody else's good. When people that have gotten the vaccine are in the hospital now because they got the Delta variant. So, go ahead and get the vaccine. It's not going to keep you from getting it, but we hope you'll be all right. That's what it is.
And I think that's the problem with it being so new is, like you said, there are instances of people who were vaccinated who passed away. So what are we even doing here? And like I said, I feel like there's just not enough data to prove that vaccinated people aren't spreading it or to prove that vaccinated people can't get it. So people are freaking out and just saying, if you're not vaccinated, don't come near me. Instead of, well, I'm vaccinated, so I'm probably okay. I'm like 99.9% okay. Just because you hear of the one story in one state, 49 states away, where a vaccinated person died. It's that phobia
but
of
it's
the
worse
newness.
than that because they say you should wear a mask. Then they say you don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated. and they say you do have to wear a mask even if you're vaccinated.
Because we don't know.
All that does is tell people then there's no point in getting vaccinated, because they're also saying you can still spread it, you can still catch it.
Yep.
What are the benefits of getting it if you keep telling me even though I got it, I still have to wear a mask, I still have to social distance, I still have to use the hand sanitizer, I still have to do all this stuff. There's no benefit. So people are just saying, okay, then I won't get it.
You more than likely won't die if you get vaccinated. They do know that over 90% of the folks who are hospitalized with COVID, what you made a good point, Tito. We don't know if it's Delta or not. With COVID are unvaccinated. So they said it's like 90% of folks who have been hospitalized recently are unvaccinated.
Yeah. And you create the hesitancy and then you create division because people are hesitant.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't make sense to me. It still doesn't compute. I'm trying to understand why they're so adamant. It just doesn't make any sense.
As far as like making it mandatory, it's probably because there's a chip in it, and they're going to minority report us.
Here we go, the chips. Here are the chips.
They're going to minority report us, and we're going to all agree to it like idiots, and then think it's cool.
No, it's about power and going into the next election in 2022.
With the pandemic, with how they dealt with it?
How did they win this last election? With the pandemic and how they dealt with it. They literally used it to win an election. They're going to do it now. They're going to say they don't care about you.
So are you saying they're trying to keep us in our houses so that they could do mail-in ballots again?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so glad I'm an independent because I love both sides. I do. Y'all be cracking me up with
absolutely. This is not okay.
I love it.
I mean, it's not insane. It's a perfectly logical
it's not logical.
It is logical. They did it.
Not the right word.
They literally just did it. I mean, factor out the election fraud. They still went and mailed out like millions upon millions upon millions of ballots, unsolicited ballots. That 100% happened.
I know. I mean, I've read about it, but it's not in the news, so you can't find
it. You ain't gonna. They're not gonna put that in the news. That's one thing I can tell you.
The other things that aren't showing up in the news related to COVID are how folks are slowly redoing their numbers for how many deaths actually were related to COVID last year.
I'm gonna say this: COVID is essentially over for me. I mean, it's been over.
Not going back.
It's been over since the
one trip to Minnesota.
It's been over since the second week after I got that second dose. Once I hit day 14, COVID was over. I have been living my life like regular. I look at everybody else around me like you're in the fucking Twilight Zone. Like I'm tired. I be walking around like just looking at people like I'm convinced that people that want to stay masked up it's because they have body image issues. And they're comfortable with their mask. I can't hide this. I can't hide this anymore. It's just no.
You're so stupid. Harry, you just gave you a headache instantly. I can't keep hiding this from the world.
We've been free since last July here, so
yeah. I can't wait till next month when I come visit. I'm like, I can't wait to see people's faces in Texas. Yeah, man.
But probably is
can I say one thing about the Delta variant? Why are they only talking about cases and not deaths? You notice that? It doesn't make any sense to me. If people aren't dying, why are we talking about how terrible this new variant is? And again, when I went and got tested, they did not test for either variant. They're finding that out after the fact. But we're only talking about cases. Nobody's talking about deaths because the deaths are nothing.
Let's look at this. Let's look at this.
Deaths are in the hundreds.
Let's look at this
in the thousands.
Let's look at this scientifically, right? Look at this scientifically. So if you have a strain of the virus that's particularly bad and puts you in a hospital, you're going to stay away from people. If you have a more mild strain that's it makes you asymptomatic, you're going to be around more people, more likely for that to spread.
Mm-hmm.
So the Delta variant, from my understanding, is much more infectious, much more contagious, but it's more mild. It's more mild, and that makes sense if you look at it in terms of evolution and natural selection. If you're not showing symptoms, you're more likely to be around people and spread it. Versus
That's
like
why
the
people aren't
versus
dying.
the scarier ones that like incapacitate you and then you're isolating yourself.
They shut down New York.
It makes sense from a scientific standpoint, Shante. You know, when you're talking about millions upon millions upon millions of replication, you're going to get mutations. And you know, and that thing's a living thing, so it's only going to want to. It's going to want to pass on the traits that are allowing it to procreate and replicate itself because it's a living thing.
Gotcha.
There was a guy. There's a guy that not this past Sunday, but last Sunday, guy at my church, Juan, comes into the kitchen. He's moving, so he's trying to see after service who can help him move. And he goes into the kitchen. He goes into the donut box and gets donuts, and gets some fruit and everything. Juan calls me last week. He's like, "Man, I'm sorry. I just got diagnosed with the coronavirus. Me and my wife." And he called everybody there. Some people were like, "Ah, crap!" Like the people who like I had it, you know, and my crew, we were like, "Juan, you're okay. You know, it's okay. But if you get it, if we get it, we get it. It's all right. I don't want you to feel bad because you were out living life, and then all of a sudden you got sick. It's okay. I'll be okay. Don't worry about it." You know, he called me today.
Yeah, that's definitely what's happening. And then I saw a video where somebody posted where they were saying, if you're out living your life, that's fine. If you're not vaccinated, that's fine. But if you get COVID and you need to be hospitalized, don't come to the hospital because the hospitals are starting to be overrun and people who actually need to be there are starting to get kicked out again. So what do you guys think about that?
So I'm looking at it right now. The New York Times just reported average over a 7-day span is 5 deaths. That's nothing.
New York?
No. This is it says United States. It's New York Times, so I'm assuming it's New York.
5 deaths?
Yes, that's it.
You're lying.
But there's tens of thousands of cases, so they're scaring us with cases, not with actual.
Got it. That's what you were saying.
People
before.
dying.
Well, they're making the vaccinations mandatory, and I feel like that's what we were talking about. Sounds like I am of the opinion that the vaccinations seem safe. If the FDA approves it, I don't see why people wouldn't be okay with it, just like any other vaccine.
If that's not going to sway them.
I also could see it being treated more like a flu because it isn't like a disease that you're trying to make sure your kids don't get because it has like a 90% survival rate. So I kind of see it both ways, but at the same time, it doesn't surprise me that there's mandatory vaccinations happening from companies because I feel like people are scared. So it's like, how do you make people feel safe? Make sure they're vaccinated. But now they're pissing people off too. So what else? So
that same day when there was 5 deaths, it
was one day.
Positives were 116,000. That's what they're using to scare people. But even if you look at those positives versus the deaths, that's a statistical zero. That's nothing.
Right. Well, anything to wrap it up with our conversation for the evening?
I was going to say this. Did you guys hear or read about the stabbing down in Los Angeles for the anti-vax and the pro-vax people? That was So over the weekend, I think it was on Saturday, down at Los Angeles City Hall, they had a protest, and the protests were the anti-vax vaccination people were protesting. Well, the pro-vax people came, and a huge fight broke out. A few people got stabbed. A lot of people got injured because of the scare tactics that the media is doing and that the government is doing. If you just let people live their life, just let people live their life. And if they come to the decision to take the vaccine, great. If they don't come to it, they'll have to deal with that consequence if there is a consequence. But I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm definitely not going somewhere to get stabbed.
I bet you more people died in that stabbing than died that day. I'm being dead serious. I bet you. In LA, I bet
Nah,
you.
the person didn't die. The person didn't die. I just looked it up. I just looked it up. Person didn't die, and they didn't say whether he was a vax.
Yeah, they didn't say what he was.
Yeah. Well, if they didn't say what he was, then we know what he was.
Oh my gosh. All right. Final thoughts, guys. Unemployment, evictions, Nick Cannon, COVID.
Biden sucks.
Pay your bills. Nick Cannon is only talented at one thing: create babies. And if you want the vaccine, get it. If you don't, whatever.
Biden is the worst president since I don't know.
Oh man!
Wow.
Before Jimmy Carter.
Probably.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say before. Maybe Ford. Ford was 75, right? Ford was Saigon.
Yes, Vietnam.
Yeah. So worst president since Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford. Wow.
Yeah. Just on that one action alone, it's that major.
I would say he's the worst president ever, based on the fact that he can't speak a full sentence without me.
And the fact that we're laughing because we know that is messed up.
And even, I don't. You can be the most avid Biden supporter. When you're watching him on a teleprompter, you're like, "Oh, this is bad." Nobody believes he's smart. Nobody believes he's still coherent. And by the way, there's another laptop of his racist son that's out.
Oh, that's crazy, man! That video,
videos.
That video with him telling that prostitute.
Yep, the prostitute.
Man, how is that not? Dude. That should be a scandal, yo.
If it was Don Jr.
Especially since he said Russians stole it.
Yeah, he said Russians stole that one too.
Russians stole that's the fourth laptop.
3 laptops stolen by the Russians. And why can he validate the things on it? And why is he on it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. I don't understand how nobody wants to talk about this stuff. It's crazy.
He was selling women, buying women. Not a story. Not important. But
if it was Republican, it'd be a story.
He knows. That's how bad of a president he is. Hunter is the smartest person he knows.
Wow.
But still, America.
I love old Joe. Soon as Joe walks up to a podium and removes his mask, I'm like, oh crap.
Why is he wearing a mask? He's vaccinated. Makes no sense.
That's their agenda.
Why get vaccinated? Everything they do is a contradiction. It's like, wait a minute. Didn't they say? Oh.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Thank you to the panelists for joining as well. Everyone have a good night. Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.